Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rivington Bism III, and joining me is David Phreak Turley. And we're very excited to bring you an inside look at everything you can expect to see in Season 3. Over the next 20 minutes, you'll get an exclusive preview of the teams, the tournaments, and the drama you'll see in the League of Legends Championship Series.
For the first time in League of Legends history, 16 pro teams from across North America and Europe will battle each week for their spot in the playoffs. The stakes are high because these teams are ultimately fighting for the chance to represent their region and get their shot at immortality in the World Championships.
And each week, you'll be able to follow your favorite teams on their journey to the Summoners Cup as we broadcast every single match live for free and in glorious HD.
So let's break it all down. The full season is divided into two halves, the spring and fall, with an all-star break in the middle. This epic event will take place in Shanghai and feature the top League of Legends pros from all over the world, as voted on by the players themselves.
Every game counts. The playoffs at the end of the spring half will determine which teams keep their spots in the league and their pro status. The teams that move on to the fall season will face a second set of playoffs. The ones who make it through will get to battle for gold and glory in the World Championships.
That's where these teams will face the best League of Legends players from the rest of the world. They'll go head-to-head with pros from Southeast Asia, Taiwan, China, and Korea. And the competition will be fierce, as every team will be looking to claim the coveted Summoners Cup for themselves.
Now that you know the drill, let's take a look at the 8 North American teams that we'll be following all season long.
They are Team Solo Mid, Counterlogic Gaming, Team Dignitas, Vulcan Command, formerly known as Team Fear, Good Game University, Curse, Complexity, formerly known as the Brunch Club, and Team Marn.
Getting here hasn't been easy for these teams. Each of them earned their spots by beating some of the top players in North America, and now they'll have to prove themselves against each other week in and week out.
Now, you've heard the names and you know what's on the line, so here's what you need to know about each North American team before the season starts. First up, Team Solo Mid. These guys are top competitors. They finished first place at last year's regionals, and their stacked lineup and wealth of experience makes them an easy early favorite for this year's LCS.
Well, Phreak, placing first in 7 different tournaments last year, it's going to be amazing to see what they can bring out now, being in the dark for so long.
And they've just been so good for so long, and they've been stable for almost a year now. Ever since they replaced the Rain Man with Dyrus, they've been pretty much untouchable. They've had a great lineup, and they've just worked well together.
Well, Phreak, as I said, they haven't been seen much. We still have Reginald as that aggressive AP mid. Team Solo Mid, still a North American favorite. These guys can come out big.
And it's really been about him as well, because he's that team captain. Not only is he an aggressive player who makes a lot of plays in the mid lane, but he's the shot caller. He's put the team together. He's been that pillar for the team the whole way through. It's kind of on Reginald here.
Up next, it's going to be Team Dignitas. This seasoned fan favorite enters the LCS with high expectations. They earned their spot with a second-place finish in last year's regionals, and they're strong competitors. But they also come into this season with some drama. In December of 2012, the team suffered a blow when their outspoken jungler, I Will Dominate, was slapped with a 1-year suspension for toxic behavior, which now has affected the team and has caused them to have to replace him.
Exactly. They've moved Crumbs from the top lane down into the jungle. Now, he's actually pretty familiar in the jungle there. Crumbs used to jungle for Curse before he joined Dignitas. But it's also kind of then made an opening in the top lane.
That opening in the top lane after trials, tribulations, and many tryouts actually went to Kiwi Kid. Some players not really knowing him that well, but he's done very well for Dignitas so far, and also been able to participate in those secret practices they have going on.
Yeah, the secret Dignitas practices have really been just super strong for them. They've enabled a wealth of strategic opportunities for that lineup.
Next up, we have Counterlogic Gaming. These guys finished 3rd in last year's North American Regionals. As the longest-standing League of Legends team in the world, this is their time to show everyone that they're still in the top tier of elite players, and especially now with a revamped roster.
And they've had Link115 up in the middle, replacing Big Fat LP, one of those original founding members of CLG. And, of course, they've got Aframu now on support, traditionally an AD carry player. I don't think he had the strongest trials necessarily. I think there's been a couple of difficulties in that bottom lane, but we'll see if he can bolster himself up.
You know, Phreak, with those changes, with the heart of Aframu, and with what Hotshot does for his team, Counterlogic has great chances coming into this.
Absolutely. Now, let's take it over to DJ Wheat, who's joined by CLG's Doublelift.
Thanks, guys. Doublelift, thanks a lot for joining us here before the match you guys have. Let's talk a little bit about you're one of the few teams that comes into Season 3 with experience from Season 2. And does that make you feel any more comfortable just kicking off Season 3 today?
Not too much. It's like the game is so different now, and it's mostly just the tournament experience that I've had, and just like the nerves have finally settled in, so I don't get too nervous during a game.
One of the big changes that you guys come into with Season 3 is the fact that you do have some roster changes. We heard that from the guys earlier. How are you guys feeling about the roster changes going into it? I mean, you certainly have had some shuffling, even some position shuffling over the past about 6 months. So how confident are you with your lineup right now?
I love our lineup right now. Like, I had some big problems after Chowster moved to the jungle. He was probably the best support I've ever had. But now we have Aframu, who's, to me, like, he's the shining star of our team right now for me, because we make such big plays together. And Link in the middle, like, he's really consistent, he's really solid, and he has these champions that nobody else plays and nobody knows how to deal with. So I really like our lineup.
Excellent. So let's talk just a little bit about the teams. I mean, you guys come in here as one of the elite teams of the 8 in North America. Tell me what you think about the rest of the teams that are in LCS.
Definitely, Curse, TSM Dignitas, they're good. We could probably beat them when it comes down to LCS. But the bottom 4 teams we practice against very extensively. We practice about 9 hours a day. And it's getting to the point where it's not even really practice for us. We win games too fast, and we don't really know how to play when we're behind. So when we get behind against these top teams, we don't know what to do. And it's just a really big discrepancy between top teams and the bottom teams.
Interesting. Well, we're going to see some of that action unfold today. Thank you very much, sir. Good luck in your match today. Let's shoot it back over to Riv and Phreak.
Thanks, Wheat. Our next team is Vulcan Command. They were formerly known as Team Fear and were the first ones to earn their spot in Season 3 at the North American Qualifier, and they did it with an overpowering 4-0 showing, this after losing Aframu.
And you heard Doublelift talk about Aframu being that shining star on the new Counterlogic Gaming lineup. But the interesting thing about their trials and tribulations as Team Fear was that while Afra did amazingly online, he seemed to have troubles on LAN, and Fear never had good results in person. Now, since they've kind of joined the LCS and you saw them in the live qualifier, they've been doing amazingly.
Well, finding a spot or finding someone to fill that spot is actually going to be a top laner. They were able to grab Zuna, who was a former jungler on another team and is now an AD carry. So he's kind of been all over the map, has a good idea of what's going on, and obviously he's been playing amazing for the team.
And that's a really big thing for him as well, because he was, that jungler for CLG Black. He has LAN experience, and it's sometimes rare to see in a replacement player someone who actually got that sort of in-person experience. It's a really big deal for them.
And coming off of that as well, with Zuna having so much behind him, and for the team, he brings his brother as the coach. And we've talked so much about coaches. We see them coming out of Korea so much more. They have an impact on the team.
It's absolutely massive. Getting that force behind you is really, really useful. Now let's move on to Good Game University. These guys were formerly known as Team Dynamic and were one of the best teams in North America on that name. But with the name change, they've also had a big roster revamp.
Phreak, I am Anjo, a support just turning 17, is going to be currently the youngest player in the LCS, but still brings that skill to the table that they need.
And he's a really, really good player. I actually matched with him in solo queue about a month or two back, and he's got really good reflexes. He would see people 2-on-1 me because I overextended, and he just was there with Flash Ult Sona. The guy's really good. I like him.
So with that young part of the team, Zion Spartan, the top laner, many know him from Team Dynamic. He is still in high school right now. Got a good loudmouth on him, but he can back it up with the skills.
And that's going to be good for them. He was one of those original members on back in Team Dynamic, back on Monomaniac way back in the day.
Yeah.
And he's always been really, really fearsome. He's probably one of the best players in that team.
And Phreak, Nintendo X coming up next on the team, off the team, contention for the team, but also probably one of the best on the team.
He's absolutely amazing, and I kind of like his foresight as well, because he was really known for jungle Olaf.
Right.
Before Olaf was a big deal, right? He was a player that actually pulled Olaf bans, and you fast forward 6 months, and everyone bans Olaf against every team. And so, I like his ability to find champions out and say, here's what's going to be big for us.
The next team to qualify for Season 3 was Curse. Following a disappointing showing in the Season 2's competition, Curse came out ready for war at the North American Qualifier and easily earned their spot by dominating the competition. And we harped on it all throughout the LCS. It's about the experience, and they used it.
They absolutely did. These guys were kind of fighting for their professional lives, which is scary, but you also realize they were already professionals. They were already playing full-time. They hadn't been dealing with school or other jobs and whatnot, and so they just looked amazing, and they played that way.
Voyboy coming in at the top lane is something that Curse is needed, and letting him free and loose and play in a different style is something that has very much helped the team.
Exactly. When you look back at his team history, he was aggressive from day one back on Rock Solid and then Dignitas.
Yep.
When he joined CLG, it actually wasn't much of a fit for him. CLG, a bit more of a passive team, and it didn't let him shine through in his main strengths. Now on that Curse roster, they're all really aggressive players. It's really allowed him to shine through. He will willingly 1v3 and win.
Well, Phreak, time has told us that 3 of those members maybe not have worked on CLG that are now on Curse. So we're going to have to see that heat between the 2 teams come up in these games.
I am really looking forward to that grudge match, though. Curse, hyper-aggressive team. You know, those players getting dropped off, usually not their choice that they dropped off the roster, but certainly they're all amazing players, and I can't wait to see that match.
Our next team is Complexity. They were previously called the Brunch Club and had a great showing at the North American Qualifier. This talented group swept Team Marn 2-0 at the end of the second day to lock in their spot in Season 3. This team has been a compilation for a long time, also known as Trooper's Troopers, but he's finally got a team for himself here.
Yeah, Trooper, sort of formerly an AD carry, he said he wasn't actually completely comfortable yet in that mid lane role, but with the new roster and his new role, it seems to have worked for him. He looks pretty comfortable.
And they've grabbed a great core jungler in Lauda Mortis, a big champion pool, a great initiator, and a great strat caller, an all-around great choice, and he really led a lot of the charge through the LCS for them.
And he's really got to be considered kind of an MVP on this roster. Back in the day, you know, he was kind of headhunted by a lot of the top North American teams like Dignitas when he had that 3-player trade sort of earlier in 2012. And he was just viciously loyal to his team Legion at the time. And I like that about a player who would just stick by his friends and try to make them work the best they can.
And Phreak, an awesome story we get to see it play out all season long. Nick Wu, Claky D's brother, in that top lane.
That's going to be fun. You know, when we look back at the live qualifiers there, Nick Wu in top, Claky D, the jungler for Marn, it felt like Nick Wu had Spidey sense. He could kind of tell when Claky was coming in to gank him and would be able to pull back in time. And you saw it work for him. You know, they won that match 2-0. They made it through, but of course, even still at the end of the day, you saw Claky D and Marn make it through.
Brotherly love always makes for a good story.
Yeah, now, of course, speaking of Team Marn, last but not least, they were the final team to earn their spot in Season 3 and persevered despite being huge underdogs, thanks to some daring plays and their outspoken team manager, Marn, who claims they only played to 10% of their potential in the qualifier.
So let's take a closer look at the men of Marn.
It's kind of like a Cinderella story.
Welcome to Season 3!
I don't think any of us really expected to qualify from this. No one really expected us to.
I know we had a couple of fans and stuff, but I don't know how many people actually believed it. You know, I don't know how many people really thought we'd make it.
All these other teams were like a year or 2 old. They always practice together.
It still hasn't even hit me yet.
They have done it, coming through a brutally tough group, being the underdogs every step of the way.
The team was doing really well when we first formed for about a month, but Mega Zero had to quit because he wanted to focus on school. Nobody else was good enough to fill his spot, so we disbanded.
We all have classes at different times. Some of us have jobs.
2 weeks before the online qualifiers, Marn came up to me. He's like, I'm going to try to put the team back together. Would you be down to do it? And I said, sure.
We made our team like about 2 weeks before the deadline because there was a cutoff point to make new teams.
Right before the deadline, Marn's like, Mega Zero wants to play again. Let's get the team back together. But our original AD player was already on a team, so we had to fill new spots. So we found Heartbeat, who's our new AD player, and Marn benched himself for Echo.
The games we did lose, it was my fault. And I was like, if you guys find any player better than me, I will bench myself. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to get to the best.
There was a fair amount of pressure. Like, not many people really knew who I was or was really impressed by me. Like, they knew me for a couple of champions in specific, but mostly my overall play, people were kind of like, use Echo, it's fine, it's not a big deal.
Basically, when we started doing the rank 5s to qualify, we were really rushed on time. I think we barely made it.
You needed to be top 32 on the ladder.
We played the first day and we got to like rank 50th. The next day, we lost 3 matches in a row and went completely downhill.
It doesn't look like we're gonna make it. We're like 50 on the ladder, 48, and it's like 2 hours are left.
From like 6 to 1 a.m., we played like continuously.
We made it by the skin of our teeth, just made the cut like 30 minutes before the deadline.
I think it was definitely the match against Cloud9. Everyone expected them to make it out of the group stage, 100%. And then when we beat them, I think people started to think, we actually have a chance in this.
I do not believe it. They're going to go for it. It's going to be an epic base race. Team Man beat Cloud9.
Just like that, the game is over.
God.
We end up beating all these teams that no one thought we would possibly beat.
Marn is the only team still alive from the 32-team online tournament.
And it is going to be Marn.
What a path they took. They base race Cloud9, and then they come back from 6,000 gold down in 16 minutes to beat Azure Gaming, only team from online qualifiers to make it through.
I know we're the underdog team. We were the underdog team in this qualifier. We're going to be the underdog team going into Season 3. We might be a little weak against those top NA teams, but as the season progresses, I think we'll do a lot better.
The chant to come out now. These guys are so amazingly happy.
There will always be new blood. There will always be new people that will rise to the top. And I believe my team will rise to the top.
Let's send it over to DJ Wheat, who's joined by Team Marn's jungler, Claky D.
Thanks, guys. Here with Claky D, and I mean, the video says a lot. You guys came together last moments, and I have to ask specifically about the underdog mentality, because is there a point in which you're like, look, guys, don't call me the underdog, don't call us the underdog anymore, or are you guys embracing that and just taking it with full force into Season 3?
We love being the underdogs. Like Marn said, we only played to 10% of our potential. But being the underdog story, everybody wants the underdog to win. And so we like it when people want us to win, and I feel like the whole team performs better under pressure.
So let's talk a little bit about your brother, Nick Wu, on Complexity now. You guys talked about how you were so happy that you had both qualified to enter into Season 3. Are things exactly the same? Is it starting to get heated up now as you get closer to the Season 3?
It hasn't heated up yet. I think it will. We don't play each other until the second week, so maybe after we play each other, things will change. But as of right now, we're still really, really close brothers.
All right, so another thing that was taken away from the North America qualifiers is your style of play amongst the team. You had the base race situation, you had the down by a lot comeback situations, and you also had a lot of champions banned just because you guys were playing them. What can we expect from Marn in Season 3? More of the same antics? You have some new tricks that you guys have been working on?
We have a lot of new tricks that you guys are going to see during the Season 3 LCS. I can't really tell you what it's going to be, but I think you guys are going to be surprised, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
All right, well, keep your eyes peeled. Thank you, Claky D. Let's shoot it back over to Phreak and Riv.
Now let's take a look at the 8 European teams that bested all the rest in EU and will be blazing their own paths to victory.
Now, first up is arguably the #1 team in Europe, Russian powerhouses Gambit Gaming, formerly known as Moscow 5. Now next, SK Gaming. This crew was led by Ocelot in the mid and is one of the favorites going into the season.
Third is Evil Geniuses, who used to be known as Counter Logic Gaming EU and are a consistent top 3 finisher in every event. The fourth team is Copenhagen Wolves. They were the first team to earn their spot during the European qualifier.
And the next team that earned their spot in the qualifier, despite a very fresh roster, is Against All Authority. Now sixth up is the all-Spanish Giants Gaming, who earned their spot with a surprising 4-0 performance during the qualifier.
Next is Fnatic, who won the Season 1 World Championships and are looking to reclaim their former glory. And finally, there's Dragonborns, who you might recognize from the chest bump of Destiny following their win on the final day of the European qualifier. So now that you know who's playing and what's at stake, don't miss a minute of the action as the best players from North America and Europe battle it out each week. The League of Legends Championship Series kicks off February 7th at 1 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Central European Time. You can see it all for free and in HD at lolesports.com.
We'll leave you with a closer look at how these teams feel going into Season 3. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the Rift.
Season 3 for me is the first step that Riot takes to make this game be like a real sport. And so there will be a lot of eyes on this first season.
Well, Season 3 is like the new beginning for everybody.
Since I was 14, I was already playing other games, and I was hoping that I could become a pro gamer like those people I see playing and doing their living for that.
I've been playing video games since I was a little kid, but about 10 minutes ago I became a pro gamer.
It's a step in the next part of my life, and I'm excited, honestly.
It's not really just a game anymore.
It's a job.
I think people don't realize that this actually is a sport and takes a lot of your health and concentration, focus, mind, everything.
Esports is real. It's like football, it's like baseball. It's a real sport. People just have to realize that it's more of the mind than physical.
You need players that are ready to focus on only esports and put time towards that commitment.
It's just insane to be making money off playing League of Legends. In the next 3 months, making way more than I made over a year doing part-time jobs.
I think I can afford to skip 1 year because college is whenever. League Season 3 is now.
Every team wants to be pro, and there's always practice if you want it.
We play 5 to 6 days a week, 8 to 10 hours.
Really going to make an impact there on Eve.
We want to play anyone. We really do. We just want to get better. We want to get on that level that all the top NA teams are.
We're used to all this. We don't really have those tournament scares, I guess, which a first-time competitor will probably have.
I know we're the underdog team, but I think we showed that we're really strong. We're going to work really hard and practice really hard, and we're going to be able to play them for months.
What a job. I get to travel around the world and experience everything and meet so many new people and just understand myself better as a person and grow.
People can think whatever, but then I just explain them, well, I do what I like, I travel all around the world, I have friends, so for me, it's making my dream.
I think there's a big future in esports.
And I think in the next few years, it's just going to get even bigger. It's going to be incredibly cool. I say I'm a pro gamer. I'm proud of that.
Competing is what I live for, and it's a great experience to compete against the best players around the world.